Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to our NYP live session. You're here, my friends, because you believe that the human potential is nearly limitless. Because you believe that the human potential is nearly limitless, but you know that having potential is not the same thing as doing something with it. So, our goal with this session and our guest speaker is to introduce you to the good habits that will help you actually execute on your dream and achieve success that you're after. Moosa Lawati here, your moderator, a business consultant in human capital consulting with a bachelor's in chemical and process engineering. Our guest today is the functional production manager at Petroleum Development Oman with over 20 years of experience in the oil and gas industry, in which he has held various leadership and managerial positions. He holds a master's degree in business administration with hands-on experience in leadership, change management, lean, and continuous improvement. He is also a certified trainer from the Institute of Accelerated Learning, USA, and he runs a training program that is certified by the Ministry of Labor on personal change strategies. He believes that learning is a lifelong journey and the best investment ever. Please join me in welcoming Samira Sariri. Welcome, Samir.
Thank you very much, Musa. Assalamu alaikum, and very good evening to all of you. First of all, I would really like to thank the National Young Professional Committee for really having me in this session. I'm really honored and privileged to be your guest today. And I'm also excited, really equally excited, because I really like learning events. And I'm positive today, inshallah, all of us will learn, including myself, something, at least something new. Today, our topic, as Musa said, it's really about how really good habits can set us for a great success. This is something which is normally undermined. It's not really fully utilized. And for that reason, we wanted really today to talk a little bit about it in this hour or so. We'll start really putting into context, talking about our dreams, our goals, our aspiration, and how can we really use our good habits to really deliver our goals and really achieve our accomplishments. We'll talk about in detail of the habits. What are they when we talk about habits? Why they are important? And I will provide you, inshallah, with a framework on how to build a good habit and how to deal with a bad habit or a challenging habits. Let's start talking really with a bigger picture. All of us, we really want to succeed. We want to be significant. We want really to leave a legacy. We want really to have an impact in this world. And it's really very important that we have our dreams, our aspirations, our goals, and we translate these goals into accomplishments, into achievements. And it is our duty, all of us, really to go and dream big and really have this big ambition that we go out there and we make a difference, helping ourselves, helping the people really around us, and helping the bigger community and the global as much as we can. And all of us, we have something we can really add and something we can contribute to. And in this quest really to improve ourselves and improve the environment around us, it is really our right to dream big and really use whatever means when it comes really to personal strengths and talents to manifest these goals and these dreams into reality. And always, it's really important that we dream big. It's much, much better we dream big and we have big goals rather than we have small goals and we just really achieve them without testing our potential. The other part of it is really helping others also to have big dreams and really helping them to achieve their goals, whether you are really in young professional or elsewhere. I guess all of us really have that duty really to help each other to really make it a better world and really achieve our goals. So always, please, it's kind of a plea that we really need to unleash our potentials and take others along the way with us. It's really the most difficult thing, and sometimes people do it that they kill really other people's dream. What we want really to aspire others to really achieve their dreams and achieve their goals. And that's why it is important. One aspect of really getting to accomplish our goals and dreams is really thinking of the long term, thinking of the goals, translating these goals into really habits that support achieving these goals. And for that reason, why really today I wanted to share with you why really good habits will amount into great success going forward. Let me start with actually a story. And this story is really, let's consider a person, a young professional, whether a male or a female, that he or she has a lot of dreams, a lot of aspiration, and he or she wanted to translate that into really an action, wanted to succeed. There's burning desire inside that they want to succeed. But of course, as a young professional, they needed a bit of guidance. They needed a little bit of help really to unleash this potential and make sure all this energy is really directed towards very, very focused activities and accomplishments. So this person was asking around, who can really help me? Who can guide me? And then he was told there is really a very wise man in certain country. And at the end of the basically the forest, you will find very wise man who can really coach. He's been helping a lot of people. So this person, this young professional, traveled all the way to the end of the jungle, to that place where this wise man is sitting. And then after reaching there, he greeted the wise man, he greeted this coach and told him, oh wise man, I wanted to succeed. I have a lot of goals. How can I really get there and get quickly and get there right? He said, easy. Since you really crossed all this journey and you traveled and you overcome all this of challenges coming here, I think it is my duty now to help you like helping many other of your colleagues. What you have to do is you will stay with me for good enough time, let's say 66 days with me, and make your arrangement to stay long. And what I want you really to do, you come in the evening, and then like any other people, I mean the rest of the group there, we normally set a fire in the compound wall where I stay, and then we'll have a chat. So this young professional, very excited, came early. He was there with the rest of the group. And then the wise man started asking the people, his students, what have you accomplished today? What is the learning from today? But then he was asking very, very strange question. He was asking them, have you finished tomorrow? Then this young professional was surprised. So he started asking the question. He said, oh, wise man, I understood the previous questions, but I did not understand your question on have you finished tomorrow? Because tomorrow have not started. He said, look, young professional, really you don't start tomorrow without planning it. So when I say finishing tomorrow, it means you have finished the planning for tomorrow, because you really need to be focused on your goals. So if you can really get that habit into your life, then this is one way really to set, or it's a direction you set yourself to success. Then after they finished the evening gathering, he told him, you come back early in the morning, just after dawn, before the sunset, and you will find me with the rest of the students. You really come there near the lake. So this young professional came in, and then he was sitting there. It was early in the morning, and then he've seen the wise man, the coach there, and he was really preaching that before you start your day, you need to get yourself ready. You need really to get yourself full of energy. You need to get yourself focused, because when you go out there, you will be faced with a lot of challenges, really trying to achieve your goals and trying to achieve your dreams. And if you are not strong enough, if you have not built the internal right, if you don't have these practices really with you, then you cannot achieve all what you want to achieve. So he'd been coaching him for enough time till he really got these two habits of really setting the evening and setting early in the morning, setting himself for success. And we'll talk a little bit about really linking the story to the material which we'll see later, inshallah. So let's start talking about what is a habit when we talk about a habit. And I want you just maybe also to think with me, and you could also put it in the chat there. What comes in your mind when we say a habit? Of course, a habit could be a good habit or a bad habit. I think we use it day in and day out. But a habit is something automatic. Something really happens without thinking much about it. It's really on the autopilot, as we say. So things like brushing your teeth, I think this is really something really common. Today, if a child or a kid does not really wash or brush his or her teeth, it is kind of a crime. Driving is another good example. I think we all remember when we started driving that we have to really focus, we have to analyze, we have to process all the information. And we really need to think about each and everything. After some time, we drive from home, maybe to work, and vice versa, without even thinking about the route, without thinking about the car itself. And sometimes we go far thinking about many things without realizing how far we crossed. And sometimes maybe we over or miss our turn. A lot of things like putting your clothes, the shoes, you name it. There are plenty of things we do automatically. And of course, these are done for some good reasons, and we'll talk a little bit about them. But you see there in the slides a rope. And I always like really to use the analogy of a rope when we talk about habits. So if I ask you, if I give you very thick rope, and I ask you with bare hands to really just cut it, can you do that? And most of the cases, I think it's going to be really difficult. But how this rope is made, it's actually start with small threads, and then you really put it together, then it becomes a thick rope. If I ask you, take the thread, try to cut it, all of us should be able to do that. Even a 6-year-old child can do that. But once you really put it together, after a little bit of work, it's going to be very hard to break. And this is exactly the analogy of a habit. Habits start very small. It's like a thread. You can manage it. You can make it at the beginning. But later on, once it becomes a rope, it's going to be very hard to change. If it's a good rope, if it's a safety rope, if it's something useful, of course, it's going to really help us. And for sure, it's going to really amount to our success, and vice versa. If that habit is not really helping us, it's going to be really a burden carrying it with us forward. But then the question remains, as humans, why we form habits? What is the rationale behind it? And that's what, when I said at the beginning, this is something we don't pay enough attention. We are actually geared for habits. We are created with forming habits, and it's up to us really to utilize this very strong ability that can help us into really achieving our goals and our dreams. So how it works, this is all to do with the brain. And if I ask you today, what's the size of the brain relatively in a percentage wise, if you take the mass of the brain compared to the total mass of a human being, the body of a human being? And that's roughly around 2%. But if I ask you how much energy the brain is taking, that's really 25%. Roughly the quarter of the human body energy is consumed by one organ. It's consumed by the brain. And it's very interesting when you really study the brain itself. You will find there are different parts of the brain. They are doing different functions. And of course, they are using or consuming different energy. So if you take the prefrontal cortex, which is basically the front side of the brain, that part of the brain is responsible to do a lot of analysis. So if you have new data you want to process, if you have a new logic you want to solve, if you encounter a new situation, if you really want to get your spatial orientation, there is a lot that part of the brain is really doing. But of course, it comes at a cost. It comes at a high level of energy consumption and focus. On the contrary, there are other parts in the brain, which is really a gray area in the middle of the brain, where it is really used for repetitive things. So once things, they come really first time, second time, and you get used to it, what the brain does, move it from the prefrontal cortex, from the front part of the brain, where there's a lot of energy consumed, and it move it into this middle part, gray area, where it's really consumed virtually very, very little energy. And we really talk about energy saving. We talk about the bulbs, which is really save the energy. That energy saving is really embedded into our brains. And this is really for a good reason, because imagine you really need a lot of energy for each and every task. Putting your shoes, putting your clothes, brushing your teeth, opening, closing doors, switching on off lights and ACs. Your brain will be overloaded, and you will not be able to learn new things and deal with complex challenges and new situation. And for that reason, this is actually main reason why the brain is really setting habits and really moving these standard activities into a certain part of the brain, which is really energy efficiency. So I thought really of sharing that, at least we understand ourselves a little bit more. Now, of course, with a lot of these activities and a lot of these habits happening, it's really worth asking ourselves how much in a typical day that what we do is a habit. And maybe if you just put in the chat box again, just a percentage, what do you think? From different research and literature, you will see there's different percentage from different people. I've seen as low as 40% to as high as 95%. And I think the message there, the clear message there is a lot that's really been converted into habits. There's a lot of what we do day in and day out is really being a routine, is really being a habit. And for that reason, if we really can get the bulk of the activities which we do in our habits in an automatic way, those key and important activities that help us to grow, to develop, to achieve, we are setting ourselves for success over the long term. And this is not a new thing. In fact, if you go back to the ancient human history and you really extract from the old philosophers like Aristotle, I have a quote here. What he is saying is, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. So it's really, if you see this, it's been realized over thousands of years now. And the more we advance in the research and in the literature, we realize there is a lot more importance that we really need to pay attention for the habits. And there's really a nice quote which I always like by John Dryden. What he said, we first make our habits, and then our habits makes us. So as we said, excellence is a habit. And for that reason, really when we talk about good habits, they set us really over the long run is really to a great success. And why that it's really important investment that we really go and set ourselves the right habits to help us moving forward with our success. There are two books which I always recommend reading around habits. The first one is The Power of Habits. This is by Charles Duhigg. Actually, I have the copy here. I don't know if you can really see it in here. This one is really a lot of research, a lot of background. It's a lot more talks about how the habit it works. Of course, with different also examples, whether on a personal side, whether it's also in the animal side, and also how different people used it, including different businesses and different organizations, to really understand habits and really get some money out of it, get some revenue out of it. And maybe we could talk a little bit about that later on. The other book, I have it electronically. It talks really about, it's more about how can you use habit. It provides the framework. The title is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And the framework, which I show you later on, is really based on James Clear work. He got over 20 years of really work on the areas of habits and how to use habits. So these are highly recommended books if you really want to go and study a little bit more about habits. Now the question is, and always all the research and the work, and it's always start with animals. And I think there's really a good experiment, and I'm sure you've heard about it. There are so many experiments on birds, on mice, on monkeys, and different animals, trying to understand their psychology, trying to understand their behaviors and habits. But I wanted really to share one example on the monkey experiment. What the scientists and researchers done, they took actually a group of monkeys, they put them in a cage, and from the top of the cage, they actually normally put banana, because monkeys, they like banana. And immediately, of course, they were observing them, and immediately when the banana comes, then the monkeys, they jump and they grab the banana. So the scientists, they advanced the experiment. They brought hose with hot water, and they brought the banana. And when the monkeys, they started to grab the banana, what they've done, actually they sprayed them with hot water, and they started feeling the pain, and then stopped really grabbing the banana after a few iterations because it is painful. After some time, what they've done, the researchers, basically, they took some of the, one by one, they started replacing the existing monkeys inside the cage with fresh monkey. And when the fresh monkey come, they try to grab the banana, but the others, they stop it. They hold it, and if it doesn't listen, of course, it get beaten. The interesting part is, after replacing all the monkeys with fresh ones, without actually being exposed to the hot water, they still kept the habits. And this is very insightful from different perspective. A, we get programmed as mammals, as monkeys, as human beings. And B, there are a lot of courage which we have, with baggage which we have, that we have never examined. We just seen it. We took it with us. We've seen others, and we've never questioned these habits and these behaviors, whether they are right or wrong. It's just we inherited them, and we just continued with them. I'll take you closer to the human being and the business. And this one, you will see it across board. You will see the habits, how it is used in basically the shopping behavior which we have. You will see this in the shampoos which we use. You will see this even in the toothpaste which we use. You will see this even in the fast food, how things are standardized, and how really these companies, they try really to get us into the habit of consuming and make it so easy and so standardized that you can pick your menu with just a number. It's a standard. You say, I want meal number 1 or meal number 2, or you get in the drive-through. If you walked in one fast food restaurant in Oman or in any other country, you will see it very, very standardized, really trying to help creating a habit of for you as a consumer, without even sometimes make it so easy without even questioning it. So let's get really to an old story. This is back to the 1930, and this is in the USA, and it's a story of Pepsodent. And at the time, of course, in the US and in the world, there's big challenge around the health of the mouth, the teeth, and the gum. Big challenge, because people losing their gums, their teeth. It's not like today. We have really very good system around the hygiene of the mouth. And one guy really Pepsodent got really an idea to have a toothpaste to get people to use it so it can improve the health situation. But of course, it was really big challenge to convince people. So what this guy have done, actually, he called very, very good, very famous marketing person And he really gave him the idea. He said, I have this product. I'm really trying to reach out, but I don't get sales. People not really coming forward. What can we do? Then this guy is very smart. He started really working with the human behavior, starting at the beginning of selling the toothpaste, the Pepsodent, based on the human feelings, getting a good smile, getting a good fresh mouth, and then he started making some progress. But what he've done actually, when they made the advert, they tried to connect them to a timing. So they were telling people, brush your teeth after food, brush your teeth before you go to bed, brush your teeth before when you wake up in the morning to get a fresh breath, to get a nice smile, to enjoy life. And then after that, when they started wiring this into habits, the sales really boomed. And in the US, and not only the US, actually, it went to Europe and from there to the rest of the world. And the rest is history. Today, actually, we struggle selecting which toothpaste we want really to pick. And if we really make a switch from one habit of using certain toothpaste to another one, it's going to be really a big exercise to do that. And this is really true across many other examples. Now, can we really talk about few examples of these habits? Of course, habits, there are a lot, and they could be coming in various sizes and shapes, as simple as brushing your teeth, or maybe taking water, to really more significant things like exercising, taking care of your health, reading, and really getting into the habit of continuous learning and improvement, planning, personal planning, goal setting. So you could, yeah, the mind is limitless when it comes to the number of habits and the type of habits different people have or they want really to have. I wanted really to share two good examples, and here the reason why I'm bringing this, if you actually study the successful people, you will find their success is not a sudden. Their success is really, under that success, it's a lot of work, but there are also a lot of good habits. Take anyone, even Bill Gates, which we always quote him, or any of these figures, they always have habits and really try to study them, get some of the habits. A common habit is really learning. A common habit is taking care of your health, and that's why I quoted three examples of these habits. Two great books, which I also encourage people to read and look at, is one by Robin Sharma. It's the 5 a.m. Club. I also have it here. It's really quite a good book. And the other one is, since I'm talking about the books, The Success Principle by Jack Canfield. It's quite also heavy book, but it's really excellent books. But what they talk about really commonalities, certain common things. And we did talk about that wise man, and he said, you come in the morning and you really need to come. What you really need to do in the morning, according to Robin Sharma and Jack Canfield. For Robin Sharma, he has this 20-20-20 rule. And the way he set up the starting of the day, before you really do anything, what he's saying is, first 20 minutes is exercising, another 20 minutes for really planning, and 20 minutes for learning and growth. Similar concept with Jack Canfield. He called it the power hour. So it's 20 minutes for meditating, 20 minutes for exercising, and 20 minutes for learning. You could see now commonality between the two, but of course you can set your own habits as long as you clearly know your goals and how these habits can really help you to accomplish your goals. Of course, some of the goals, they are end-dated, just quick, something quick you will do. But some of the goals, they are lifelong, like learning, like development, like taking care of your body, like really being productive. These ones, when I talk about these big goals, you really need to hardwire certain habits, certain good habits that they will amount after a number of years into your really great accomplishment and great success. And that's why we say really good habits means great success over the long run. And really to facilitate that, let me now move into the framework from James Clear, as I said. And for James Clear, he has 4 components of the habit. In other textbooks and other people, you will find 3 blocks on that model, on that framework. But it's always people think habits is just one thing. It's just a routine. But in fact, it's not. And if we really understand the blocks of the framework, it really makes it very, very much easier to build a good habit or really trying to overcome a negative habit. So let me run you through quickly through these components of the habits. The first one is the cue. And the cue, this is the trigger. So for example, to brush your teeth, the trigger is when you wake up and you get into the bathroom. That activity is really trigger you into getting into the basically the basin, wherever you put your brush and you start brushing your teeth. So you need a cue to start the habit itself. Then there is a craving. This is what James called it, the craving. This is the difference in his model. And this is internal desire that really support that routine, that activity. The third one is the response. And the response is what you do, part of that habit. I will give you examples. The last piece is really about the reward itself, what you will get from doing a habit. And sometimes we see this. We get a lot of satisfaction and excitement from doing a habit. And sometimes we also get a reward, temporary reward. Sometimes it is negative. And over the long run, we feel bad after really passing that stage of instant reward. Let me give you examples. So let's take one example about reading. And reading is always something really important for growth and development. So the cue there, let's say you have a nice book in your desk where maybe you work or where you plan your activities. And inside you, there's really always a desire, very strong desire to learn, to grow. You really appreciate knowledge. You appreciate self-development. And this is really a big value, an important value for you. So that's your craving. And then your response is really picking the book and start reading. So the act of reading itself, going through the pages, is the response. And of course, after that is the reward where you feel satisfied. So these are the different blocks with examples. On the other side, I'll give you another examples. Let's say now we use a lot of social media, and today we cannot escape it. And for this reason, we need also to observe our habits, how much we consume in terms of social media, using the technology, and are we really using it right or not? Are our habits supporting us or not? So take the example of the WhatsApp, and especially those who really got very nice tone. When you get really a WhatsApp message, it's really make sure you don't miss it. You get that alert. So the cue is here, is the alert. And assume that message is really now talking about this session for the young professional. We are talking about good habits. And there is a desire inside, there is a craving that that person wanted to know what's inside that message from the peer or from a friend or from the colleague. And then, of course, the act is really opening the app, and then, of course, feeling relieved, feeling fulfilled that he or she got to know what's inside that message. So this is really an example on the habit. Now, how do we work with that? So since now we know, how can we really use it to make it easy for us to build a good habit? For the cue itself, let's make it obvious, i.e. it's visible, it's in front of us. We cannot miss it. For the craving, we need to work on it a little bit. We make it attractive. And I will give you an example. And for the response, small. When you build a new habit, make it very, very little. That is not going to be a challenge for you to do it. If you want really to exercise, don't run 1 hour. Take a few minutes when you start. And then you build on it. And on the reward, do something really that satisfies you, something that you like. Take the example now. Let's say you wanted to start exercising. This is something you wanted to do. You've been really for long starting and stopping, and you want to make it a habit. So how you do that with this model? So for the cue, how you make it obvious? So you start really making that cue, and your cue is maybe your clothes, maybe your trainer, your shoes. Put it in a place where it's really catch your attention. Maybe next to your bed, maybe in the front of the door, wherever that catch your attention. And on the craving side of it, try to really exercise a nice place. Try to select a company. Try to make that experience enjoyable. And on the response itself, make it very simple exercise when you start. The goal at the beginning is not really dropping your weight or becoming very fit. The goal at the beginning is establishing the habit. Make it very few minutes, and then you can start adding on it as you go along. And of course, human beings really likes rewards and recognitions. So after you really deliver for a certain period of time, whether a week or two, reward yourself. Give something to yourself as an appreciation. And of course, after a longer period, also give another appreciation and more kind of rewards. This is a template. I just want you to think. So please, maybe in a few seconds, try to think of a habit you want to develop. So at least you walk out with something practical and start really putting that habits in these 4 blocks. So what is a cue for your habits which you want to set? What is the craving you want to build, and how you really do it, how you make it attractive, how you make this habit at the beginning very, very simple. That response is really, really easy to do. You have no chance to fail. Make it really so easy. For example, if you want to start reading, just start with 1 line. No one can really fail doing 1 line. I think that's as simple as it can get. And then think of the reward. I hope you've got that. Now, on the other side, how you deal with the bad habits. And maybe quickly also go through it. And it is the opposite. So you deal with them in an opposite way. So the cue, you make it invisible. The craving, you make it unattractive. Make the response difficult. Make it hard to yourself. And then, of course, you need to do consequence management on the reward part. Take an example of using maybe the phone before sleeping. So maybe an easy way is really to hide the phone or keep it away from your bed. That's really to deal with the cue. The craving, really create the right belief to say this is really bad for you. It will basically impact your sleep quality. There's a bit of radiation, as the scientists tell us, which is really not all good to sleep and the phone on your hand. The response, sometimes you want really to go and grab it. If it's really too difficult, lock the phone, or really maybe cut the internet program, your internet, that it switch off after some time. So you don't find it easy, even if you really try to break away and you go back to that bad habits, it's now getting hard. And of course, if you still go and do it, overcome all this challenge, make a bit of penalty, maybe pay 20 riyals or 30 riyals donation. There could be different means really to get that consequence management, put it this way. Again, maybe take a few seconds to think of a bad habits that you want really to deal with. What is this habit? This is between you and yourself. What is the cue which is really today triggering? And it's really important. I think if you deal with the cue for these bad habits, a big obstacle you overcome. Because sometimes we don't realize, we just think, why I'm doing this response? Why I'm doing this habit, without understanding there's something preceding that. And there are programs inside us that the craving, which is really pushing us to do that. And if you really deal with these 2 things at the beginning, I guess much easier as a prevention. And of course, if it doesn't happen, then again, you need to take the consequence management. My last slide before maybe we stop for questions. Just high-level tips. I did mention you start small. The target here when you build a habit is really not getting the goal itself at the beginning. Your goal is really building that habit. And if you set that habit right, after some time, after a few years, you will start seeing the difference. For sure, you will start seeing the impact and the gain and the success from these good habits. And always take one habit at a time. Try not to take so many of these habits. Otherwise, you are straining yourself and you are really not, you will not be able really to really take it in very structured and easy way. Make it easy to yourself that you succeed. I think that's the message here. And then allow sufficient time. I really did talk about that wise man, that person who is coaching. And I did mention 66 days. And of course, I'm sure you've been hearing about how many days it takes for people to really get a habit sustained, built, that you will not go back. And you will hear 21 days, there are research saying 25 days, 30 days. The latest is really telling us 66 days. But as an advice, it's not about the days. It's also sometimes the nature of the person, sometimes the type of the habit. It is also the amount of emotion, positive or negative, associated with these habits that makes the difference. Your measurement, how you gauge whether this habit is sustained or not. If you really don't do it at any point of time, you will feel something really missing from you. If it's really a good habit and you don't feel comfortable that you have not done your habit that day. And the last message is really from my side is it takes time, it takes effort. It is not something quick, you just do it. And likewise, when I say really, I'll talk about success, it does not happen overnight. Likewise, building good habits, quality habits, they will not happen overnight. It takes investment, but for sure, and definitely it will pay back, and it will be a really big time. This is really what I wanted to share with you. And Moosa, over to you if there are any questions or comments or any feedback as well. We could also learn from each other, definitely.
Yeah, so thank you, Samir. It's an interesting topic indeed, very insightful presentation, and very good thoughts and ideas that you shared today with us. Indeed, I'd say that I have a question. If you could go back to the slide where we spoke about the bad habits, can we take procrastination as an example? If you would take us through procrastination as an example, I believe that let's say some professionals might young professionals or any other people who are really joining the let's say the let's say the workspace, they might face some sort of habit that is, let's say, procrastination that they might have been used to due being in different situations within university, schools, etc. So could you please take us through this as an example?
Right. Thank you, Musa. I think it's really a great question. And of course, different people, they might have different reasons why they really procrastinate. But let's really try to understand. So an individual procrastinate. What the person needs to really observe when he or she procrastinate, at which status of feeling, because this cue, it could be a place, it could be a time, it could be a feeling. So there must be a trigger for this procrastination. And I think it's really important that we spend time understanding ourselves and really look for a pattern when this is happening. Is it happening with certain people? Is it happening when that person in certain feeling? Is it really happening a certain place? So that's the first part, really going around the cue itself. Then the craving. Why we are really going away and shying away from that activity? What is it? Do we have certain belief? Do we have certain fears? There must be a reason why we are doing this procrastination. Are we afraid of something? Are we really doing something short term against long term? Do we have previous memories or histories? So there's a lot really need to be studied and understood. That putting things off with procrastination as a response, it's preceded by the cue and the craving. And studying that part, I think that's what can help each and every individual. Then, of course, if that sometimes that's not trivial, of course, and sometimes you still understand yourself. Maybe you get someone to tell you, let's go and do something else, and then you just escape it, and then you come back, you regret doing it, and then now you start really that post-mortem, you really start correcting the situation by applying the penalty. And then you apply penalty for that procrastination which you've done, and maybe you just, if it happens again, just make it heavier penalty, and so on. So this is how I would really put it in this framework. I hope I've answered you, Musa.
Yeah, that's very well answered, Samir. So we have a question from the audience. Sultan al-Rubai says, "How do I sustain the new habit on the long run?" And if you'd allow me, and Sultan would allow me, I'd add one more thing. Let's say, how do I sustain it? Let's say on the long run, and how do I sustain it if I'm in a toxic environment? Many people, many young professionals join different companies. Some companies might not have those, let's say, that sort of healthy environment and healthy culture. So how do we sustain it on the long run, and how do we sustain it if we are in such environments?
Okay, let's start with the environment, and of course, I mean, I started talking about our dreams and our aspirations, and I also gave the story around that wise person and that coach. So definitely, we need the right environment. We really need the support. And of course, different people will have different level of resilience. Some people can take certain loads, some people cannot take it. So I think understanding yourself is important. If you can still persist and overcome the challenges of the environment, I think stay there, because that's really making you stronger. As they say, the bullet which does not kill you makes you stronger. But if you really feel that it's really too much for you, and you don't have that level of resilience, and you have a better option, I think go for the better option. But you really need to understand also, are you really shying away from it, or it is really unbearable? It's not only you, it is happening to many people, and not everyone is surviving. So I think that's around the environment itself. I always look at these environment and challenges. Last week I was having basically a mentoring session with a staff, and the same question came in. I have a challenge from my management, and I gave the same advice. It's part of the package. You will get a challenge. Not all the time, all the environments are the same. Not all the people are the same. Some people more supporters, but sometimes we need to build that resilience. We really need to get that. So if it's bearable, you can take it. You can convert it from really a challenge into building your strength. Go for it. If not, of course, you really make the call better, not really to demotivate yourself and you lose your energy and your enthusiasm. Now, how you really sustain it and sustain it for the long run? The message here is really you need to build it for long term. And at one point of time, when you really reach that status, you will feel automatic. Of course, it's not going to happen immediate. It will be gradual. You will have ups and downs when it really happens to you. But an advice, and this is something I use, you could really use a simple visual to help you. You could use paper if you like paper with tables, and you can tick, you can make smiling face when that habit happens. And you could really use a sad face when it doesn't happen. Or you can use your phone or any other electronic device. You can track your habits. I simply use a tick, green tick if it happens, and a red cross if it doesn't happen. And you really continue till a point where it does not really become in your conscious mind. It becomes automatic. You never think that how I did not do that good habit. And really it takes time. And thus, at that point of time, um, it's really built to sustain. You know, it's really built to stay there. In between, just from experience, and also when you talk to different people, you will find this. On these ups and downs, this is expected. This is human behavior. Don't be too hard on yourself. It takes a lot of effort because this is something rewarding and it's really compounding. This is something compounding over the years. So investing at the beginning with a bit of effort, I think what I'm really trying to say, be easy on yourself, not too easy that you miss it, but also be compassionate to yourself, be understanding to yourself that this is what you are really trying to do is hard. Maybe you are really getting in that change and you're really trying to change many things, trying to overcome a lot of things that you are used to, and this is not comfortable to you. You are pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, and for that reason, you really need to be patient but persistent.
Amazing, amazing. That's very, very insightful, Samir. I guess we have one more question as well from the audience. Rahbi says, "Are there any common habits that you think young professionals should build, and what are those habits?"
Right. I like this question. It's really great question. I think really I will use the three which I shared in the example there. So one is really around learning and development. Life is to me is it's a lifelong learning journey. This is the one. So as a young professional, whether you really want to specialize, whether you want to be a future leader, you want to be a CEO, whatever you want to do, without really growing, without making yourself better today than yesterday, and you are really making yourself better tomorrow than today, you will not be able to take a leading role. You will not be able to really achieve what you have inside you. So it's a given, it's a common, developing yourself and taking all the opportunity to really learn. And don't really undermine any simple act. I'll give you an example. Every morning, I will really watch a YouTube for 15, 20 minutes. That's part of my setting my day, for example. If you think how is 15 or 20 minutes will do from a YouTube, but of course you have to be selective. But this is, imagine you really do it over years, how it will look like. It's really powerful when you look back and you see the difference it makes in your thinking, in the amount of knowledge, in your behaviors, and what you can really do. Taking care of health, I think exercising, I did mention, drinking water, taking the right food, managing your energy, I think it's really, really important. Whether you are a young professional or you are really a seasoned person or even a citizen person, i.e., I mean, really getting old, taking care of your health, this is a habit that will have an impact. And if you really don't have the right fitness, you will not be able to achieve your goals. You will not even be able to improve yourself, and you will not be able to contribute. The third one, again, I repeat myself here, it's really about having your clarity around your purpose in life. What do you want to do? What are the goals you want really to do on different aspects of your life, in your health, in your personal growth, in your family, in your community, in your professional job, in your finance aspect, in your spiritual and religious part? I think you really need to be clear on your goals. Set your plans. Have annual plans. Translate them into monthly plans. Translate them into weekly activities and monitor daily. And this is some of the also the habits which really I also do myself. I have personal goals. I plan. I review. I have visual management in a whiteboard where really I set my goals. And I support these goals with habits. because certain goals, as I said, like reading, exercising, planning, a lot of our religious rituals, they are really about habits. It's really continuous. And in order for you to really focus on this goal, build a habit. So I will answer the question is, these are the three. Of course, there might be other things as a young professional, but I am really safe to say these are universal habits that all of us, including young professional, they can really work on.
Right, Samir. Thank you very much for answering this question. I would say, if you'd allow me, a person can also think about doing an individual change plan for himself as well. It's not only about people considering change management for wide organizations, but even if we consider ourselves as well in a change plan for ourselves as well, that would be good. And adding those habits and trying to gain those habits will be something very good and a great addition to a person as well. So I'm not sure if there are any other questions. Seems not. So I'll start wrapping up. Thank you very much, Samir, for being with us today, and thank you to the audience who were with us today in this amazing, insightful session that was presented by you. That we liked. Indeed, a habit that we sustain, a habit that we try to gain, will bring us more and more success in the future, and it will bring us the success that we're after. Every one of us has a specific goal, has a specific achievement in his mind. But in order to go for that achievement, in order to reach that goal, we need to have some sort of habits, I would say, which some sort of help us or are some steps in order to achieving it as well. So I would say thank you again very much, and I'd like to wrap up by this verse from the Quran as well. إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. We need to start also working on ourselves into gaining those habits and achieving success. Thank you again for you, Samir. Thank you for the audience as well.
Thank you very much, Musa. I don't want to start a session, but you touched base on the personal change. And this is really a big topic and a topic close to my heart. But you are right. I think we really definitely need to really work on the personal change. And normally when I really do these programs, it's three components. The first component is the belief system, is the programming. That programming, if we get that programming right, I think we set ourselves to success. Second is really getting into the habit, because there was a question around which habits. The other habits is really getting ourselves outside the comfort zone, understanding the comfort zone. And of course, the third leg, the third component is what we cover today is a habit. But fully agree, Musa. I think change is really what make a difference to all of us, is really a change that we want to make. Thank you very much for the session. Thank you very much for the questions as well. Certainly, I enjoyed, and inshallah, hopefully, maybe we'll meet somewhere else in different sessions.
Likewise, Samir. We enjoyed it as well. It was very joyful. Thank you very much for being with us today again. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam wa rahmatullah.